Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going? I think that's the first time I've ever clicked switch to this screen and the audio and everything wasn't screwed up. So that being said, we're starting off great tonight. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a wonderful week. I just got done working out actually, so I'm a little bit tired. Zach, you may need to carry this a little bit tonight for us. But hope you guys are having a wonderful week. For those of you that have been supporting us, I really appreciate it. I know we really appreciate it. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting. I have failed you guys. There are no YouTube videos coming up, and that is completely on me. I have 2 of them pretty much edited and need to get them up. They will be up this weekend is my goal, with this one included. Life's just been really busy with work, and I've just not been able to get to it. So with that being said, I will try and get those up this week. If you've missed any of the previous episodes, make sure you go check them out. Drop us a like, a follow on, or a subscription on YouTube. And we'd love to get your guys' feedback as well. With that being said, we got a great episode for you tonight. A lot of things going on in the world of sports. I think that there's probably one thing that I can at least promise you. And if you're like me, this past week, I've been watching a lot of ESPN, and it's just riddled with politics. So my goal is that you will never get politics from me on this podcast. We are here to talk about sports, not politics. So that is my biggest desire for this, from my standpoint. Zach may talk politics, but that's just how it goes. I won't be doing it because I dislike it with a passion right now. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it over to Zach, kind of let him go through his talking points, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, you touched on a few good ones there. The NFL really has been a blast to watch so far. So we'll have a lot to talk about. We'll dive deep into some of those. What would have been divisional games, right?
Divisional, yeah.
Divisional games. Some big news around the NFL too, surprisingly, and some big news around the NBA still going. We're kind of seeing how some of these trades are shaking out, so a lot to jump into. I think we should dive right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think before we hop into the NFL, you and I kind of talked a little bit about this just a few minutes ago, actually, and I kind of sprung it on you. But I thought it'd be really interesting to look at kind of that Houston trade, that James Harden trade with Houston, Pacers, Cavaliers, and the Nets, and kind of see how it's working out. So with that being said, I mean, I just kind of looked at the team's records just to start this conversation a little bit, and looked at the team records and kind of where they are. I did this last night at like 2 a.m. So if there have been games played since then, obviously I didn't account for those. But since the trade, which took place on January 13th, the Pacers are 1-2. I believe actually they're 1-3 now because they lost to the Mavericks last night. Houston is 1-3. The Nets are 3-1, and the Cavaliers are 2-0. So from a Pacer fan standpoint, I'm kind of a little bummed out about this trade because we got rid of Victor Oladipo, who's an Indiana guy and good player. For a player who's injured right now, and no fault of his own, obviously. I mean, what he's going through, best wishes to him. Hope he quick recovery. Hope he can get back on the court as soon as possible. But it kind of sucks from a standpoint because we gave up someone who, and you'll hear later on Victor's stats, we gave up someone who's playing really well for their new team. And it kind of goes back to actually a conversation you and I had, Zach, I believe last week or the week before, kind of about Victor Oladipo, and James Harden for that matter. And so from a Pacers standpoint, I'm disappointed, obviously. And I think from a Houston standpoint, they should be disappointed. They're getting about the same thing. And what I'm seeing here is obviously, it takes some time to get acquainted to your new players and your new teammates, but a 1-3 start with the talent that they have on that roster isn't a good sign for Houston. And I think my prediction of them not making the playoffs is looking better and better as every day passes.
Yeah. Just to touch on the Pacers really quick before jumping over to Houston. Obviously, just something completely out of most people's and the players' control and especially fans' control. Karis LeVert going through his physical and discovering a mass. Forget exactly where.
It was his
Maybe it's
kidney.
that. Was it the kidney? Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say
kidney.
like abdominal area. So just best wishes to him. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Hopefully he can get back on the court because that he's a huge addition for the Pacers. Really a young, up and coming, I'll say superstar scorer
Yeah.
in this league. So um, hopefully that all works out for the best and very quickly. But over to Houston, um, they're definitely a team that's a work in progress. They've had multiple injuries. Uh, John Wall has been out, I think, the last 3 or 4 games. DeMarcus Cousins missed a game or two and is kind of hobbled with, I want to say, an ankle injury. I think Christian Wood missed a couple games within the last week or two.
Yeah.
And then you're adding a new player in Victor Oladipo. Um,
Who's off to a hot start, by the way.
he's off to a hot start, but their team, I think they also Daniel House, I think that's how you say his name, um, uh, is injured. He was starting for the team to begin this season, so another starter that's injured. Um, Houston's a massive work in progress at the moment with all the new pieces. John Wall trying to get healthy, prove himself again. You're adding Victor Oladipo. So Houston, they have talent, but it's going to take them time in a slightly shortened season. I mean, it's helping that a bunch of these games are getting postponed, I guess, for them because it gives them time to kind of work things out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're going to be cutting it close if they want to, sneak into that 10 spot for even the 10 spot for a playoff chance in those playing games. Yeah, those are kind of my thoughts with those teams. Um,
I mean, just to from a standpoint, real quick, to talk about Houston a little bit more, and it's kind of this is a good segue in my opinion for the next little bit that we're going to talk about too. But it's the Victor Oladipo was averaging like 17 or 18 points a game. He gets traded to Houston. First game he plays, 32 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals. Second game he plays, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. 3 steals. It comes back to that question for me is, was he all there for the Pacers? Because it's not a different system. It's different players. But was he there? And then you look, and then on top of that, and this is kind of that little segue, you look at James Harden and the way that he's playing in Brooklyn, 32 points, 34 points, 21 points. He's had 2 triple doubles since joining the Nets, and a double double. He obviously wasn't trying in Houston, and I guess from my standpoint, how do we hold players accountable for that? Because that's
yeah.
kind of
Well,
ridiculous to me.
I guess I feel like Victor Oladipo and James Harden's situation are quite a bit different. I mean, Victor Oladipo, when he kind of had his breakout season, he was the guy on that team
Mm-hmm.
before Miles Turner was really a go-to guy. Before Domantas Sabonis was definitely a go-to guy, and before even Malcolm Brogdon was on the team.
Yeah, Malcolm
And like
Brogdon wasn't. He's only been. This is his second year.
exactly. So I feel like Victor Oladipo went from the guy that was getting 25 shots a game to I'm looking at this season with the Pacers, he was averaging like 16, 17 shots. Um, I guess the year before it wasn't that much higher, but to your point with Houston, he's now taking 23 shots a game. Um, he's making, his percentages aren't different at all. 3-point and field goal percentage are about the
Yeah.
same, right at his career norms. His free throw percentage is above the career norm, but it's a small sample size. He's got 2 games in Houston that we're working off of here. But really, I mean, it's he was averaging 20 this year with Indy. He goes to Houston. He's making 3 more shots a game. That's 6 points, and he's averaging 27 with Houston. So I think he's just gotten a few extra shots, and a few extra shots have gone in. And John Wall's hurt. DeMarcus Cousins been hurt. Christian Wood's been in and out. So he's the one running the show. And like I was saying, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he is one of the 2 or 3 guys on the team once they get healthy that can score. Because right now he's kind of their only guy.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but so where I'm going with this is who's the real winner here? Because I mean, you got James Harden. The Nets. Nets look good, right? 3-1. Cavs, but I really honestly think the winner of this trade is the Cavs. They with Prince and Jared Allen, I really do think in the long run the winner is the Cavs. The Nets may win a championship this year, but I think when it comes down to it, the winner of this is the Cavs. Tyreen Prince Tyreen Prince and Jared Allen have played well. I mean, Prince has only played in 2 games. Jared Allen has only played in 1, but in that one game that Prince played, or the one that he recorded stats, he had 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. And Jared Allen had 12 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and 4 blocks. That's pretty good stats for a young guy that just got traded to Cleveland. You gotta like where they're going, and they've got Colin Sexton. That's his name, right? Colin Sexton. So I mean, they've got a really, really good young core here that could potentially make them a pretty big threat in the coming years, in my opinion. So I think that's why I think they've won so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Cavs fan, you got to be pretty happy. Jared Allen, I think I brought it up when we talked about the James Harden trade initially, but he was a big loss for that team. He's a huge guy in the paint, big defensive guy. He can pass the ball a little bit. He always kind of seems to chip in a couple assists when he's out there. And from a big man, you'll always take that, someone who can handle the ball a little bit. He can score a little bit. He can rebound. So he's a big add for the Cavs and a young guy that they'll want to control for a while. But then the big thing with the Cavs is Colin Sexton just developing in his third season. I mean, averaging 27 a game right now. He's developing into a significant scorer. His percentages are up. We'll see if those can kind of sustain. But I mean, he's developing. You had Jared Allen. You get some nice role players. They already have Andre Drummond. And the Cavs might not be a rollover. I mean, they beat the Nets last night, so I think the Cavs are going to be a good developing team next year or two.
And the other question I had is, what are your thoughts? I mean, you think Oladipo, Houston has a decent year this year? You think he maybe stays in Houston with the success he's currently seeing? If this continues the way it's going, do you think you think he could stay in Texas, or you think he's going to Florida or Miami no matter what?
That's a tough one. I mean, it always comes down to money and numbers, especially when it comes to a player like this who's had some good seasons in the past, but is kind of coming off of some iffy seasons. So I think the rest of this year for him is going to be a huge time to prove that he is worth a long, big contract.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It might. A lot of times it comes down to what the player wants with their career. Do they want to take a little bit less and stay somewhere where they might have a better, or go somewhere where they might have a better shot at playoffs and a championship, or maybe does Houston come out and offer the most money and he stays there? So it's really hard to tell what their what they value most. Um,
No
but I
income
think,
taxes in Texas either.
yeah, yeah. I think though, you heard those rumblings right after he was traded that he wanted to go to Miami. Um, so I think unless Houston wows him from a money standpoint, or they mesh really well, John Wall and Christian Wood, and they have a decent run, maybe make the playoffs this year, I guess I would lean towards him heading somewhere else. That would be
Yeah,
my guess.
I think he's gone. I think Houston got rid of because Levert actually was supposed to go to Houston,
Yeah.
and I think they messed up on that one. Honestly, personally, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know why they. I don't understand that trade enough um, to know why they pulled that trigger.
But anyway, so that's what I had there. I thought that would be an interesting kind of start to the episode there, because I think that it's something we're going to be talking about for the next 3 years at least, because, or at least 4 years, because I mean Houston's got 4 of the Nets' #1 picks, and the other question that comes into is, Houston's kind of the opposite of the Texans. Will the Nets fall into the trap of the Texans, and how important is that? With KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, if you have all 4 of them locked up for the next 4 years, it's not that big of a problem in my mind. But that's just, it's interesting to me. So
Yep. Guess Brooklyn. We wanted to touch on Brooklyn and kind of how their trade's shaken out. Um, Last night was actually the first night we saw their big three all play together, all start together,
mhm.
and they look pretty good. They lost to the Cavs in a double OT game, um, but I mean, they're going to put up so many points. Their defense might be a little iffy, and they're going to be running these small ball lineups. They had Jeff Green actually starting, and I believe he played like 40 something minutes yesterday. Jeff Green did.
Yeah, he played
Um,
45.
so I'll bring it up again, but their depth is really gonna come into play. I mean, you can run those guys out there night in, night out, the big three, and make a playoff run. But certainly, if you get to the finals, there's got to be some tired legs if they're going 38, 40 minutes a night, because they don't really have any depth. So I think that'll be the big thing with the Nets. I mean, we all know how much talent they have. They can put up 130 points if
Easy.
if
Yeah.
they wanted to. Um, so they'll continue to mesh, and I mean, we'll just see. We'll just see if they have enough, um, to beat the Bucks and Lakers, Nuggets, someone over in the West in the finals.
I guess a question that I have for you, and not to, again, don't want to bring politics into this, but how interested do you think Kyrie Irving is really in playing basketball right now? Did you see any of his press
Yeah,
conference?
yeah. It seemed like he cleared the air a little bit. Um,
But I mean, he was kind of sitting on a table with his head resting on his arms. Like, he looked very disinterested. And maybe it was just the fact that he was disinterested in doing the interview. He had kind of a little bit of Marshawn Lynch syndrome there. But, like, it just seemed like he wasn't interested at all in that interview. And if you're taking that kind of time away from the team, I feel like I'd hope that you'd come back a little bit more energetic, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
yeah. Um, I mean, I think he had some comments on people kind of making assumptions on what he was doing and why he was gone. Um, and I don't want to make those assumptions.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows how he looked in an interview. He's an odd character just as it is. I mean, even back
Yeah.
to his Cleveland days, and you saw him in the preseason. He was burning sage at the Boston Celtics preseason game. Because he previously played for the Celtics. So he's just a different character. He has his own way of going about things, and um, I don't think you can put him in the same scope to be analyzed as a typical NBA guy who might come into an interview and talk in a super passionate or super energetic way about the team and the season and give the answers that everyone wants to hear. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's going to say that just to say it.
Yeah.
So he's back with the team, and I
I mean,
think he also said that he cleared the air. He talked to teammates individually. So I think he's all in. I think he's good to go.
he had a good game. Shot 53% from the field or from the
Yeah.
floor and 37.5% from the 3-point line. So I mean, you, you know, the only person that Jeff Green had a 62% field goal percentage, and DeAndre Jordan had 85.7. Probably most of his were layups, but they're playing well. I mean, it's going to be an interesting NBA season. As much as we talk about how interesting the NFL season is, I think when it comes down to the line and we get to the playoffs, I think we're going to have some really good games.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That's what you want. I mean,
As a fan, that's all you can ask for.
yeah. So, is that everything you got on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Continue to watch that. I'm sure we'll be touching on it.
Yeah,
Most
absolutely.
weeks.
I know I will. I know I'll be focused on it.
Yep.
Guys, if you're watching, and you have questions at any point in time, please ask your question. We'd be more than happy to answer them. We're gonna shift over to the NFL now. We're gonna talk about the divisional playoffs, what we kind of saw, and kind of the highlights of that for us. And then we'll talk about this coming week, which is the conference championship games. Honestly, if you're a football fan, this last week was filled with a lot of great games. And there's been a lot of news since this past weekend. Let's talk about I say we talk about the games first a little bit, and then we can talk about some of the news that we've seen coming out. So, starting with the Rams and the Packers, what were your thoughts? Actually, you know what? We'll sprinkle the news into this a little bit as well, because I realize that probably will work better. So we got the Rams versus Packers. Good game. I thought it was a really good game. Rams go to Green Bay for the game, and it was close there for a little bit, and then got out of hand second half. Leading into the second half and in the second half. Great game from Aaron Rodgers, 296 with two TDs. And they finally had a run game. Aaron Jones finally showed up. They had a run game, and they had a pretty stout defense as well. I feel like the Rams they just couldn't find it this time around. Not a bad run game, but Jared Goff's recovering from that thumb injury. And that begs that question. I don't know if you saw it, but Sean McVay saying, Jared Goff is our quarterback right now at the moment. Think Jared Goff is out anytime soon? And kind of that's a question I have for you. And what is kind of your overlook of that kind of that Green Bay game? I know you hate Aaron Rodgers, so it'll be hard to compliment him.
Yeah, boy, Aaron. I mean, he's some players run the line of confidence and arrogance, and he crosses that line sometimes. So it kind of bugs me. But he's having an MVP season, probably the true MVP in my opinion. But this game, I mean, kind of the results everyone thought it was going to be. The game was closer, kind of through the course of the game than most people thought. But I mean, the Rams were banged up. QB injuries. Aaron Donald, I think he was banged up in this game, still from that Seahawks game. And the Rams just didn't feel like a team to me. I know they beat the Seahawks. The Rams just didn't really feel like a team that really could do anything in the playoffs.
I agree with
I
that.
feel like they were just kind of there because they had a good record. They had a better record than some other teams, and they made it in. And then they played a Seahawks team that just had a despicable week. But I mean, it's the result everyone thought really in this game. And then, sorry, I completely blanked. You had another point on this with Jared Goff, right?
With Jared Goff, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know if you saw it, but as I was saying, Sean McVay had said after that game that, Jared Goff is our quarterback right now.
Yeah, I didn't see
And
that comment, but
kind of leading towards they may be looking to get rid of him. So, I mean, the question is really, Jared Goff under center for the Rams next year.
yeah, I don't know, this Rams team, it feels like eerily similar to the division rival 49ers. And when they got to the Super Bowl, it feels like one of those teams, I mean, where Jared Goff could be good enough with the right pieces around him and the right the right coaching and some cards kind of falling into place. It it feels like they could keep making this thing work. But knowing Sean McVay and kind of how much of an offensive mastermind he is, I feel like Sean McVay feels a little capped with potentially what he can do with that offense and that team with Jared Goff under center. And I just kind of get the growing sense that they want to do more on the offensive side, but they can't. And they have a balanced team. It's not a very explosive or exciting team, but it's, like I just said, it's a team that has a good enough record to get in the playoffs, but not quite do much or enough.
When you say when you say they want to do more on offense, what do you mean by that? What kind of quarterback do they need that gives it? Because this kind of brings to my mind the trade that I could see happening: Carson Wentz for Jared Goff, straight up. It reminds me of the Bears Denver Bronco trade where the Bears got Rex Grossman or Kyle Orton, and the Denver Broncos got whoever they got. I can't remember. Jay Cutler. The Bears got Jay Cutler, and Kyle Horton went to Denver.
It feels like I don't know if that moves the needle really with the Rams. I mean, it's a change of scenery for both guys, both teams. But just knowing Sean McVay, I feel like the decision is, do we keep going with Jared Goff, try and upgrade pieces elsewhere, even on the defensive side, and kind of be that muck it up team, defense first, develop the run game with Cam Akers and have Jared Goff play off that? Or do we want to become a team? I mean, we all know the NFL, you need a Patrick Mahomes, you need a quarterback that you can just try, like Andy Reid did on fourth down. I mean, it was with Chad Henne, but you need someone that you can just put the ball in their hands and have them make plays.
The cojones on freaking Andy Reid, man. Holy mackerel.
I know, right? But I think that's the decision that the Rams and Sean McVay are kind of teeter-tottering with, is what direction do they want to go with the football team?
So what's the answer then? I mean, who we look at? Are we thinking Deshaun Watson to the LA Rams? As a Seahawks fan, I hope you're saying I hope to heck not. But is that what we're talking here? Is that the type of change on offense that needs to happen for the Rams?
I think Sean McVay. I don't know how realistic that is, but I think
Probably
Sean
not,
McVay
but
would probably be salivating at the thought of keeping that defense with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, and then putting Patrick Mahomes on the offensive
I
side.
mean Deshaun Watson.
Or yeah, sorry, Deshaun Watson.
Basically Patrick Mahomes. Let's be real.
he was the third graded quarterback this year by
I
Pro
know.
Football Focus.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, that would be a huge get. It's going to come down to what direction they want to go. If they want to continue with the team that they are, but try and be a better version of that, or if they want to overhaul it and go kind of the more traditional route that we're seeing with some of these top tier teams. The Bills. Think of the Chiefs. You think of Tom Brady still with the Bucks, but just have that explosive quarterback with the explosive offense and just put up points.
I know we have a mutual acquaintance that some would say he's more than an acquaintance to me at least, but who talks about how horrible Jared Goff is. But in all honesty, I mean, the kid's not a bad player. I wouldn't mind the Colts trying to get their hands on Jared Goff. And I mean, the biggest thing is what you have with him. I mean, he's a 38. He threw for 3,800 yards, 46, 46, 39. And he was 28-7, 32-12, 22-16, 20-13. I don't like the fact that his touchdowns are less, but he didn't really have much at wide receiver. I mean, he had Cooper Kupp, but who else? I mean,
yeah, he had Robert Woods.
True.
You're exactly right. You know what you have with him, and it's not a quarterback that you can just give the ball to and have him carry your team, but it's a quarterback
who's serviceable.
He could get you far enough with the right pieces around him. I think that's the decision the Rams are battling. If they want him to do that for someone else, or if they want to keep going down that path with him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm really excited about this offseason, and we'll talk about this here at the end, but I'm really excited for the NFL offseason. I think we're in for a lot of fun this year. So moving on to the next game is that Bills and Ravens game, unless you had something else on Green Bay and Rams.
No.
Okay. Moving on to the Ravens and Bills. Honestly, not much surprise here. You're going into. I was a little surprised at the stat line, and how lackluster their offense was. That meaning of the Ravens. I mean, you've got probably the best rushing quarterback in the league. The Bills gave up 150 rushing yards, but they only gave up one. They didn't even give up a TD. They just got literally they couldn't get it into the end zone. And the Ravens had two missed field goals. The Bills had 2 missed field goals. It's like, man, are we playing high school football or what? It
was. I don't know if you saw that game, but the wind was crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that had a factor with the field goals. But I think, and probably throwing the ball in all honesty. I mean, the Bills didn't exactly light up the scoreboard either. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens have a top probably 2 defense. In the NFL,
I mean, they had 32 yards rushing. The Bills did, which I told you they would have no rushing yards because they don't have a run game.
That's the NFL, though. I mean, if you have a Josh Allen, a Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, if you're not throwing the ball 35 to 50 times, you're doing something wrong. That rushing and defense ideology kind of works with a team. Like if you're the Rams, or if you're the Ravens, where you have defense, and you have a rushing quarterback. But I think that the Bills did just enough here to stop that rushing attack from being lethal. They still put up 150 yards rushing, but they made Lamar Jackson throw the ball in the wind, and
We
He
saw
really
that he
didn't do
wasn't very
anything.
good. He threw a
Yeah,
pick six.
yeah. I mean, that really the pick six, is kind of the difference in this game. Um, for the most part, it's not again, it's not like Buffalo really lit up the scoreboard, but I think Buffalo did just enough to stop the running game, and then Lamar Jackson couldn't do it through the air, and um, the wind kind of threw this random element into it, and Buffalo came out with the win.
If you're the Ravens, you're a Ravens fan and you're the Ravens front office, do you worry at all? Would you start worrying at all about what you're seeing on offense? Because if you think back, their offense was not very good this year. I mean,
Yeah,
they had their stretches. Every offense has their stretches. But the question really comes down to me is, are you comfortable with where your offense is with Lamar Jackson leading that team?
yeah. I, I mean, I think I would be. He's such a talent on the ground that you can't really let that go elsewhere. You just hope that he can continue to develop as a passer. He's still pretty young. Um, what is he? He's actually very young. He's 24. Um, so you just hope that he can continue to develop. I know this year wasn't that promising through the air, but I mean, even if he can become average to slightly above average in the air, and then keep his uh, his running the way it is, I mean, your offense instantly gets better with that. And then getting him a receiver too. I mean, he's got Marquise Brown, who is basically just a go route guy. And the guy just
Yeah.
runs down the field every single time. And then he's got his running backs and Des Bryant, who's like 45 years old.
I'm
And
not
those
sure
are his
Des Bryant
receivers.
actually caught any passes this year.
I don't know. I don't know
And
if he
if he and
did,
if he
but
tried and if he tried, they were ruled incomplete.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry, Dallas
I know, right?
fans.
Yeah. But I don't know. It starts. I don't think I'm worried. I think you just continue to develop him as a passer, and you get him a receiver or at least two,
Yeah.
to actually throw the ball to, and you keep that defense, and I think the Ravens can still continue to be a force in the playoffs.
What else did you see in this game? Was that it?
Uh, I mean, that was kind of it. The wind. Yeah, I was watching it, and the flags, the wind, it was blowing so hard the flags were just like stuck horizontally
Yeah.
um, for periods of time. Um, so I mean that always throws just a random element, makes it really hard to throw the ball. Uh, and I guess I was a little surprised that Buffalo was able to stifle this running game just as much as they did, given the weather factors.
Yeah, for real.
I
Well,
mean,
maybe it's the fact that they didn't have to worry about the run, that
yeah,
they
yeah.
just said screw it.
If you would have told me that the wind would have been like that, and um, you had these two teams going up against each other, I would have said Baltimore had a really good chance, because Baltimore is a snow, wind, rain team,
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
Um, but Buffalo, I'm pretty high on Buffalo. I think they are a very good team, and I think they found a way to win a weird game.
All right, moving on to the Chiefs. Moving on to the Chiefs. So, kind of controversial. You had that one touchback that some
Yeah,
people thought should have been ruled a touchdown, others didn't, depending on who you were rooting for. Baker Mayfield had a pretty decent game, 204 yards, one TD, one interception. Over 100, we had over 100 yards combined rushing and one TD for their run game. Rashad Higgins is going to be a stud in this league moving forward. I just feel like he will be. Chiefs, on the other hand, Patrick Mahomes dealing with that concussion. Think he's back this week, or you think it's going to be
that's
Chad Henne trotting out?
that's that's a huge. I mean, I saw. I think he took starter reps today.
Yeah, he took
But
light snaps.
that that concussion injury is not taken lightly whatsoever by any team or the NFL. You know, they have independent doctors that come evaluate, so there's
Yep.
no, uh, um, I guess, team bias or players, you know, talking to the 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 doctor saying, "Yeah, yeah, I'm good. Send me out there." So it's purely objective, and they have protocols and tests that you have to pass before you're cleared to play. And if it were any other injury, I would have been like, yeah, I think he's playing, barring maybe like a torn Achilles or ACL. But the concussion is tricky because he's got to pass these protocols and he's got to pass the tests, and it's a process. I think typically with this, you know a lot more by like end of day Friday, um, on what a player's status is looking like. So it'll be interesting to see tomorrow. I mean, that's the huge what if for this week.
Yeah, that's the big one for me is what happens to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this offense is lethal when he's on the field. Um, and Chad Henne, I thought was like 80. I didn't even know he was still in the league. I'll be honest. He's like
Yep.
McCown, AJ McCarron, or what? Not AJ McCarron. What's his name? Luke McCown.
He's
No,
35. 35.
yeah, it's crazy to
Yep.
me.
Yeah, I know who
Josh
you're talking about.
McCown.
Josh
Josh
McCown.
McCown. Yeah, he's just Josh McCown 2.0. Like what? Not much here. I mean, I guess the only question I really have with this one is, you know, is this the Baker we're going to see in the future, or is are we going to see a reversion or a reverting?
Yeah, I think Baker has done just enough this year to buy himself another year to kind of continue to prove himself. He's shown glimpses of great play. Again, I think it's one of those quarterbacks where it's like he's just good enough that you keep him out there, but you need to do a little more than some other teams do around him, just to kind of put your team as a whole over the hump.
Yeah,
Um, and one thing I completely forgot about this team is they lost Odell Beckham. Um,
yeah, he's gone
or
at the end of the season.
he's
He's being
gone.
traded.
He'll probably end up elsewhere, I would imagine. But boy, I mean, if you get him another receiver and you keep Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt in the backfield, I mean, the Browns are, I think they're here to stay. I think they're going to be dueling it out with the Ravens for this division for the next, probably 5 years, I would say.
Yeah, man. And then it's Father Time, the Father Time Bowl, Buccaneers versus Saints.
Yeah.
You and I talked about this one, man. It was a good game. I had a feeling the Bucs would win this one. I feel for Drew Brees. He did not have a good game at all. For the season to end the way that it did, that just is not the way you want. Tom did enough to win. That's kind of my view on that, and he's been doing that for the last couple weeks, honestly. He hasn't played spectacular, but he's done enough to win. As playoff Tom usually does. I don't really have a whole lot to take from this game. I think my takeaway is after the game, and just I texted you about this is, as a Colts fan and how many times we lost to freaking New England in the playoffs, you just have this feeling of hating Tom Brady. And you know what? That video of Tom throwing an out route to Breeze's kids and him talking and him hugging Brittany, and frankly, Drew Brees' daughter beat the crap out of her brother. I think deep down, Tom Brady isn't a bad guy. And, that's kind of my takeaway from the game, honestly. And I really hope Drew Brees isn't done. I think he is. I think he's played his last snap in the NFL. I hope he's not done, because to go out the way that he went out with no crowd there, or very little crowd, is disappointing to me. I want him to go out with the full shebang, because he deserves it. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. He'll probably be a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. And he's just a great guy. He's a great family man. Um, so it'll be sad to see him retire. I'm not ready for him to retire, but I think he will be.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I told you already. I think all the body language that he showed kind of during the game, after the game, kind of walking through the tunnel and stopping and looking back at the field, kind of blowing kisses, I think, to the few fans that were there. I think it kind of all indicated that this was it for him. And it did come out, just to note. I think it was his wife or something on an Instagram comment or something that said that he was playing this year with a torn rotator cuff and torn plantar fascia, which, along with his rib injuries, is quite the trio of injuries to be playing through. So you kind of wonder if that has a factor in his decision. A lot of players dread that rehab process. It's long, it's lengthy, it's not glamorous whatsoever. Um, so maybe he weighed his option, or he still is. I'm speaking, I guess, a little ahead of myself, but I think he's weighing his options, and he's looking ahead at what it would take to get healthy, and play in what would be his age 43 season. And I think most people feel like he kind of knows what decision he's going to make with that one.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's known Drew Brees to be tough, right? Anyone that go back to his Purdue days, I mean, he didn't have the best offensive line when he played for Purdue, and he took some hard hits. I mean, I remember watching him just get. I thought he was gonna get murdered, frankly, but it was he got hit, and then his shoulder injury early in his career with the Chargers, and then coming back and storming back. I mean, Drew Brees has just had a great career. I wish him nothing. If this is it, I wish it would have been different, but you know, gotta give it to him. Man's a freaking warrior, and the fact that it is something that Brittany um, posted on Instagram. So
Yeah.
I just read the post, and it's very heartfelt, and hope he's not done, but likelihoods are he's done. So with that being said, that kind of moves. Unless you got something. Any takeaways?
Well, no, I think that, I guess, really going back to our preseason predictions on this one, I think we both kind of had similar concerns with the Saints, and it kind of came back to bite them.
Yeah.
They've had so much talent at receiver. Alvin Kamara, one of the best running backs in the league, but not to, again, I hate this, kind of like the last image we're left with Drew Brees, but we touched on it all year about his arm and is he healthy, which
He's
appeared that he
not.
wasn't, but just a tough year for him to go out on, like you
Yeah.
said. And I think that is kind of what the Saints struggled with. I mean, you wonder maybe what would have happened if Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston were more involved in this
Yeah.
game.
Well, I mean, Jameis Winston was 1 for 1 for 56 yards and a TD. So
yeah, I mean, at that pace, they would have put up like 100 points.
you think he's the heir apparent?
There were some, like, there was a video of Drew Brees talking to Jameis Winston on the sideline, and apparently some people in the comments were talking about, like, they were doing some lip reading, and it said, "This is your team," Drew Brees said to Jameis Winston or something like that. I don't know if I'm not good at reading lips, but you could probably pull that clip up if you're listening and want to watch it. But uh, I'd imagine Jameis Winston's probably the next man running the show in New
Oh,
Orleans.
yeah, that's kind of my inkling too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so moving forward, going to Tampa Bay, Green Bay this week, 3:05 my time, noon 05 your time. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick. The Bucks still haven't quite had that blowout like impress me game, and the Packers. I know the Bucks did blow out the Packers earlier this year. Um, I just don't think that happens twice. I think it's a close game, but I think the Packers come out, and I'm sticking with my pre postseason prediction: Packers uh, from the NFC.
I got to pick with Tampa Bay. I got to stick with Tampa Bay. They were my Super
Yep.
Bowl champion pick. I got to stick with them. I think they got a hard game this weekend, and it all depends on which number 12 is better.
Yeah.
Literally, number 12 is whoever's better, it's going to win the game. Whoever takes care of the ball, makes the plays, it's going to win the game. That's how it
Very
is
true.
with any game, but definitely this week, both of them have weapons. I think, Tom Brady's got more weapons than anybody knows what to do with. But overall, I
Yeah.
mean, Packers have the fifth ranked defense, fifth rate offense, ninth defense, ninth in passing, eighth in rushing. Buccaneers, seventh ranked offense, sixth ranked defense, second ranked passing, and 28th ranked rushing.
Mhm.
I think this game really comes down to the play of Tom Brady and also the play of Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. If Ronald Jones and Leonard
Yeah.
Fournette play well,
I,
Bucks got this.
I guess one thing I did just say we haven't quite seen that explosive game from the Bucks. I don't know if that's exactly what we should be looking for. Someone brought it up in um, the GameCast. I forget, was that the NBC? Was that a Fox game? I can't remember. Um, I don't know who to give
Oh,
credit
Law
to,
Dog, thanks for the sub.
but they brought it up on the GameCast where Tom Brady. I think Bruce Arians and Tom Brady kind of had some discussions, and Tom Brady started taking over more of the offense, um,
Yeah,
kind of calling his own plays, changing his plays at some point in the season,
it
fairly
was like
recently.
4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, and they mentioned how much this game kind of looked like one of the old Patriot games, um, when Tom Brady was obviously running the show there, where it was just kind of this slow, methodical game. Um, it didn't they didn't light up the scoreboard really, but they took care of the ball. They ran the ball fairly efficiently. Tom Brady did enough.
Yeah,
He even had one of his patented QB sneaks for a touchdown. So it just felt like one of those kind of Patriot Bill Belichick Tom Brady games, and I think maybe that is more their recipe rather than you look at their team like you said, and you're like he has more talent than he even knows what to do with. But I don't know if that's exactly how Tom Brady operates. I think it's more slow, more methodical. Um, you know, taking his shots when he sees them and just controlling the game. He's a master at
yeah.
being in control of the game
And I didn't mean
from start to finish.
And I didn't mean the explosion in the sense of, throwing
Well,
500 yards. What
yeah,
I'm
but I
meaning
brought it
is,
up too.
yeah,
You know,
what I mean is he's got Antonio Brown, he's got Mike Evans, he's got, all these ridiculous Godwin, he's got Rob Gronkowski, he's got OJ Howard. Like he's got all of these playmakers that literally get the ball to any of them and they're going to do something.
yep.
So, that's what I mean is Aaron Rodgers makes everyone else around him great. Tom Brady does the same thing, but his players are already great. Like
Yeah.
you give any quarterback Mike Evans. Mike Evans is getting 1,000 yards. He literally, if the quarterback can just get him the ball, he's getting 1,000 yards in a season. In my opinion, I think Mike Evans is one of the best wide receivers in the league. Personally, wish he was on the
Yeah.
Colts.
Yeah.
Wish he was on
Yeah.
the Colts.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of style of game we get the Green Bay and the Bucks game. If it's an Aaron Rodgers Tom Brady shootout, which I would probably lean toward Aaron Rodgers coming out on top of that one, or if it's kind of a patented Brady game where he's just in control and keeping the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands and doing what he does, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second game, Bills Chiefs. Who you got? I know who you got. I think I know who you got. I think you're picking the Bills.
I'm gonna keep rolling with the Bills. I'm pretty high on them. I think they're the one team that is on par offensively with the Chiefs. That can just duke it out.
That's fair.
And win a 30-something to 30-something game. I think they're that one team, and if Patrick Mahomes is out, obviously that is a huge loss for the Chiefs. So,
well, you said it. Number one ranked offense versus the number 2. Chiefs have number 1, Bills have number 2. Number 16th ranked defense versus number 14, Chiefs 16. Number 1 passing offense versus the 3rd ranked passing offense. 16th ranked rushing versus 20th ranked rushing.
Yeah.
I mean, what it's going to come down to,
yeah,
this is going to be airing it out, and this is going to be whose defense makes the plays. I've got to personally think that the Bills will, we saw it last week, so we know they can defend the run. I'm going to stick with the Chiefs because I have them in the Super Bowl, but this is going to be a great game to watch. And if you're available Sunday at 6:40 p.m. Eastern or 3:40 Pacific, man, watch this game because this is going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. I think the big thing will be turnovers. I mean, if either team turns the ball over and puts the ball in the other quarterback's hands, those are going to be huge mistakes and most likely points on the board each time. So it's got to be I think whichever team turns the ball over less, I think they're going to be both really efficient with putting the ball in the end zone. So that'll be a big thing to watch.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's all we got. That's all I got for the playoffs. I think we keep let's keep the where I was gonna take this, where I thought we would take this going forward with the NFL was kind of talk about free agency a little bit and kind of the bigger ones that we're seeing and who else we might see in the retirements. Obviously Phillip Rivers retiring, big deal. Great quarterback, probably will be in the Hall of Fame someday. But we're running kind of on that cusp of cutoff. So what I think we'll do is we'll hold that for next week. Next week we'll talk a little bit about the NBA and kind of we'll talk about the divisional rounds, obviously, and then we'll talk about kind of what we're seeing as far as off-season goes in the NFL and who we might be seeing in free agents and where they'll go from there. So I think that's what we'll do.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, I think we're going to wrap it up there. We appreciate everyone who's watched. Matt, thank you so much for the sub. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support for the stream as always. Guys, thank you so much for supporting in any way, shape, or form you can. Subs and donations are definitely not required. They are greatly appreciated when we're doing this. We thank you for the support on YouTube. We thank you for it. If you enjoy these episodes, please share them with friends and family. We really want to grow this next year. This is something that Zach and I are both very passionate about and really want to see succeed. And so if you enjoy these, enjoy talking to us, share them with your friends and family, get the word out. We'd love to continue to grow. We'd love to be more engaging with you guys. We want to be answering your questions and giving you guys kind of our insight, our amateur insight. At least for me, it's amateur insight. But we can really relate with you guys on a more on a better level than some of the, in my opinion, than some of the other sports talk shows can. because we're average fans. We're the fans. We're you guys. We're not former players. We tell you how it is from our viewpoint, which I assume is a lot of people's viewpoints as well. So with that being said, I'm gonna send it over to Zach, and then later on, in a few minutes, we're about 15 minutes out from raids, so we'll switch the stream over and all that kind of stuff. But before we go, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna pass it over to Zach and close this out, Zach.
Yeah, well said. I think we'll, we say it every week, but especially as the NFL is wrapping up here, let us know, if there's any sort of direction you guys want to see this go, more of something. We're gonna be getting in to the MLB. MLB is starting to move. I said it last week, but it's moving a little bit more. So we'll get into the MLB, and as we wrap up the NFL, we'll have some exciting stuff to talk about in the next couple weeks. But let us know, and we'll make it happen.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time on the Ball.